Elias wasn't a man to cause a fuss. He was a creature of routine, known for his meticulously kept garden, his unwavering daily walks, and a quiet, unassuming wisdom that seemed to emanate from his very being. To all who knew him, he seemed the epitome of a man aging gracefully, free from the visible burdens of serious illness. And yet, he was gone. His wife, Martha, found him in his favorite armchair, bathed in the pale light of dawn, a well-worn book resting open on his lap. A faint, serene smile touched his lips. There was no sign of strugdication of pain. No, in just a profound stillness. The kind doctor, who had known Elias for decades, spoke of a sudden, unexpected cardiac event. A peaceful passing, they called it. But for the people of Oakhaven, a nagging, persistent question lingered. What silent force could have taken a man so seemingly vibrant, so attuned to the simple rhythms of life? So utterly and unexpectedly, the initial shock gradually gave way to a hum of hushed conversations that wound their way through the village. At the bakery, Mrs. Gable clutched her shopping bag tighter. "He always looked so healthy," she whispered to her neighbor. "Always out walking, even in the coldest weather." Young Liam, the earnest paper boy, remembered Elias, always having a warm biscuit and an encouraging word ready for him. "He was so sharp, too," Liam mused. "Always asking about my studies, even about things I thought only young people cared about." But it was Old Man Hemlock, the town's self-proclaimed philosopher and a contemporary of Elias, who stirred the pot of curiosity. "Elias was a good man, a fine man," he grumbled, adjusting his spectacles over a cup of strong tea. "But he had a secret, you know, a quiet one." The word secret hung in the air, electric with unspoken possibilities. What kind of secret could Elias Thorne, a man who seemed to live his life in such an open, transparent way, possibly have harbored? The townsfolk pondered, but no one could put a finger on it. Elias was, after all, the man who meticulously pruned his roses, the one who always knew when the first swallows would return, the one who offered a gentle nod rather than a loud greeting. His life was a picture of serene predictability. Days later, the painful process of sifting through Elias's belongings began. Martha, her heart heavy, started with his study, a room that always smelled faintly of old paper and freshly sharpened pencils. Tucked away in a dusty, forgotten box beneath old letters and fading photographs, she found it, a thick, leather-bound journal. Its covers were worn smooth from countless hours in hand, and its pages were filled with Elias's neat, distinctive handwriting. The first few entries were familiar, detailing his gardening notes, daily observations about the weather, and philosophical musings on the changing seasons. But as Martha turned the pages, a profound sense of bewilderment washed over her. The latter half of the journal veered into territory she never knew Elias inhabited. It was filled with meticulous, almost feverish, notes on subjects that seemed utterly foreign to the Elias she knew. There were complex diagrams related to quantum physics, intricate timelines detailing ancient Sumerian history, and surprisingly detailed observations on the intricacies of beekeeping, despite the fact they had never owned bees. It was a bewildering kaleidoscope of disparate, highly advanced topics, interspersed with complex equations, and even rough sketches of peculiar, unknown inventions. And then, she found the very last entry, dated the morning he passed. The handwriting was slightly shakier than usual, but clear, the paradox of time and the unseen universe. "I believe I am close to understanding the fundamental interconnectedness." The sentence trailed off, unfinished, a thought suspended midair. Confused and deeply moved, Martha showed the journal to their daughter, Sarah. Sarah, a university professor with a keen academic eye, immediately recognized the depth and complexity. "Mom," she said, her voice hushed with wonder. "Dad wasn't just reading about these things. He was studying them, deeply. It's like he was trying to write his own thesis." News of Elias's secret intellectual pursuits rippled through Oakhaven, adding another layer to the already profound enigma of his passing. Sarah, now driven by a powerful, newfound curiosity about her father's inner world, embarked on her own investigation. She spoke to the librarians in the nearest city, who remembered Elias's frequent, often obscure, requests for highly specialized texts. She contacted members of niche online forums, where, under a pseudonymous username, Elias had engaged in surprisingly insightful and sometimes provocatively challenging debates. The true picture of Elias Thorne began to emerge, piece by painstaking piece. For years, he had been secretly engaged in a rigorous, self-directed learning journey. He wasn't simply dabbling, he was immersed. He would wake before dawn, not for his famed morning exercise, but to delve into complex textbooks. His daily walks often involved headphones, through which he absorbed advanced lectures on astrophysics or ancient linguistics. His quiet evenings weren't spent merely relaxing. They were dedicated to poring over research papers, cross-referencing theories, and meticulously filling his journals. He was, in essence, a lifelong student, constantly pushing the boundaries of his own knowledge, driven by an insatiable hunger to understand. Finally, Sarah located Professor Alastair Finch, a renowned astrophysicist and an active participant, in one of the highly specialized online forums Elias frequented. When Sarah mentioned her father's username, Professor Finch's eyes widened in recognition. "Elias Thorne?" he exclaimed, a mixture of surprise and profound respect in his voice. He was a brilliant mind, a true autodidact. We had countless debates, often late into the night, about the very nature of reality, the fabric of space-time, the origins of consciousness. He had an insatiable curiosity, a thirst for understanding that was truly remarkable. In fact, the professor paused, a wistful smile on his face. He was on the verge of publishing a fascinating hypothesis on the very topic he mentioned in his last journal entry. The revelation hit Oakhaven with the force of a gentle, yet undeniable, earthquake. Elias Thorne hadn't passed away because of some hidden physical illness or forgotten unhealthy habit. He had passed away in the very act of living, of learning, of striving for understanding until his very last breath. His secret wasn't a flaw, but a profound testament to his unwavering commitment to growth, to the belief that the mind should never cease its exploration. His unfinished manuscript, his tireless pursuit of knowledge in his golden years, suddenly made perfect, poignant sense. He wasn't just existing, he was expanding, evolving, engaging with the world on an intellectual level that few dared to explore, let alone in their 70s. His life, far from being a quiet winding down, was an active, vibrant pursuit of intellectual frontiers. Elias Thorne's story didn't just become a quiet anecdote. It became a powerful catalyst for change in Oakhaven. The initial whispers of his secret had morphed into something far more profound, a shared realization that life, even in its later stages, held untapped potential for growth and discovery. The local library, once a sleepy haven for a few avid readers, began to hum with a new kind of energy. Martha Thorne, still grieving but buoyed by a quiet pride, found herself approached by neighbors eager to learn more about Elias's intellectual pursuits. "Tell me, Martha," Mrs. Gable asked, her voice softer than usual. "Where did he find the time and the motivation?" Martha, her gaze distant as she recalled Elias's quiet dedication, replied, "He said it wasn't about finding time, but about making it. And the motivation? He simply loved to know. He loved the act of learning itself. The challenge, the thrill of understanding something new." Inspired by this unassuming intellectual giant, a group of Oakhaven seniors, local gossip, and the weather decided to form a curiosity club. They began modestly, with simple topics: local history, the nuances of bird watching, the basics of digital photography. But soon, their discussions ventured into surprisingly complex territories. Mr. Henderson, a retired carpenter with gnarled hands, found himself engrossed in online courses on sustainable architecture, sketching designs for eco-friendly homes. Eleanor Vance, who had always loved to cook, delved into the complex chemistry of baking, eventually experimenting with sourdough starters that became the envy of the entire village. The Curiosity Club meetings, held in the brightly lit community hall, were no longer polite, reserved gatherings. They transformed into animated debates, enthusiastic presentations, and shared moments of collective revelation. The laughter was louder, the questions sharper, and the sense of camaraderie deepened with each new discovery. Elias
He
Thorne,
always said
though physically
curiosity
absent,
was the
had
best
undeniably
compass.
sparked a quiet intellectual revolution in Oakhaven. Sarah, meanwhile, continued her deeper dive into her father's vast body of work. The single journal was merely the visible tip of a much larger iceberg. She uncovered dozens of meticulously organized digital files, old hard drives filled with research papers, and even a stack of handwritten letters, exchanged with other self-taught enthusiasts across the globe. These were individuals, often elderly, who shared Elias's insatiable hunger for knowledge, communicating in a hidden intellectual network that spanned continents, quietly pushing the boundaries of their understanding. Professor Finch, genuinely impressed by the depth and originality of Elias's research, offered to help Sarah compile his hypothesis for formal academic review. They worked tirelessly, deciphering Elias's unique shorthand, cross-referencing his sources, and carefully piecing together his intricate arguments. Elias's Paradox of Time and the Unseen Universe, as he had so ambitiously titled it, was a bold, interdisciplinary theory. It sought to bridge concepts from quantum mechanics, ancient philosophy, and even biological processes, suggesting a previously unrecognized layer of profound interconnectedness in reality. When the paper, now formally titled The Thorne Hypothesis, was finally published in a niche but highly respected academic journal, it created a genuine stir. While some academics, wedded to traditional paths, initially dismissed it as the audacious work of an amateur, others found its expansive scope and surprising internal consistency profoundly intriguing. The academic debate wasn't about whether Elias was definitively right. It was about the sheer originality, intellectual courage, and rigorous self-discipline of a man who had no formal training in these advanced fields, yet dared to challenge established paradigms. Sarah, presenting her father's work at a small, specialized conference, spoke not just of his theories, but of his remarkable process. She highlighted his unwavering dedication, his methodical approach to complex problems, and his profound humility in the face of vast unknowns. She talked about how he had embraced failure and missteps as essential stepping stones to deeper understanding, how he had approached every new piece of information with the wide-eyed eagerness of a child and the critical rigor of a seasoned scholar. My father, Sarah concluded, her voice thick with emotion, but resonating with conviction, showed us that the pursuit of knowledge isn't a race, nor is it bound by age or formal credentials. It is a lifelong journey, a continuous conversation with the universe, and it can be the most vibrant, fulfilling part of a life, right up until its very last breath. News of Elias Thorne and the Thorne Hypothesis gradually spread beyond the quiet confines of Oakhaven. Feature articles appeared in national newspapers, chronicling his extraordinary intellectual journey. A documentary crew, drawn by the unique and inspiring story, even visited the unassuming town, interviewing Martha, Sarah, and the newly energized members of the Curiosity Club. Elias became an unlikely, yet powerful, symbol of lifelong learning, an embodiment of the profound idea that wisdom isn't just accumulated experience, but a continuous, active engagement with the world around us. His story resonated deeply with countless individuals who felt that life had somehow narrowed, that their intellectual curiosity had dimmed, or been forgotten with the passage of years. People in retirement communities across the country started forming their own study groups. Inspired by Oakhaven's example, online learning platforms saw a noticeable surge in enrollment from older adults eager to explore subjects they had always dreamed of understanding. Libraries reported an unprecedented increase in demand for nonfiction books on complex, intellectually stimulating topics. The common refrain, uttered with a newfound sense of possibility, was, "If Elias Thorne could do it, why can't I?" The profound lesson gleaned from Elias's life wasn't about becoming a quantum physicist at 70, or publishing a groundbreaking theory in your golden years. Rather, it was about the immense joy, the profound mental vitality, and the deep sense of purpose that comes from continuous intellectual engagement. It was about challenging the pervasive societal assumption that once you retire from formal work, you somehow retire from learning, from growing, from challenging your mind. Elias Thorne, through his quiet, dedicated life, had profoundly and beautifully dismantled that very notion. Months turned into a year, then two. Oakhaven was still Oakhaven. Quaint, peaceful, and close-knit, but it now possessed a different kind of vibrancy. An almost palpable hum of intellectual curiosity. The Curiosity Club flourished, its members now bravely tackling subjects as diverse as artificial intelligence, the philosophy of ancient Greece, and even rudimentary coding. Martha, while the ache of Elias's absence never fully disappeared, found solace and renewed purpose in sharing his extraordinary story. She often spoke about how Elias's passing, though heartbreaking, had opened not only her eyes but the eyes of their entire community to the boundless possibilities that existed in every single stage of life. The very last entry in Elias's journal, the unfinished sentence, "I believe I am close to understanding the fundamental interconnectedness," became more than just a poignant, incomplete thought. It transformed into a powerful symbol, not of an abrupt end, but of an eternal, ongoing beginning. It suggested that true understanding wasn't a static destination to be reached, but a continuous, unfolding journey, one that Elias had embraced with every fiber of his being until his very last breath. Elias Thorne had passed away that morning, not with a whimper, not with a decline, but with the quiet, profound thunder of a mind still actively exploring the universe, still seeking, still growing. His life became an enduring testament to the idea that the true measure of a person isn't solely defined by how many years they live, but by how fully they engage with life, how passionately they pursue understanding, and how deeply they inspire others to embark on their own journeys of lifelong learning. The quiet hum of the Oakhaven Library, once a soothing backdrop to Martha's gentle grief, now felt charged with a different kind of energy. Every rustle of a page, every hushed conversation, seemed to echo with Elias's unspoken questions. Mrs. Gable, usually immersed in cozy mysteries, now hovered by the nonfiction shelves, her brow furrowed in concentration over a dense tome on cosmology. Mr. Henderson, whose hands had only ever known the tactile satisfaction of wood, was sketching equations on a notepad, muttering about stress loads and tensile strength. Elias, in his passing, had not merely left a void. He had carved out a space for an entirely new kind of curiosity. Martha, observing this subtle shift, felt a complex mix of sorrow and pride. The emptiness of her home was still a raw wound, but the burgeoning intellectual life of Oakhaven was a balm. She found herself, almost instinctively, becoming the keeper of Elias's flame. People sought her out, not just for comfort, but for insight into the man they thought they knew. They wanted to understand how he had done it, how he had maintained such a vibrant, hidden intellectual life amidst the mundane routines of retirement. He always said the mind was a garden. Martha confided to a small group gathered in her living room one afternoon, the scent of her freshly baked apple pie mingling with the faint aroma of Elias's pipe tobacco that still clung to the fabric. If you don't tend to it, it grows weeds. But if you nourish it, even in winter, it will surprise you with its blossoms. She spoke of Elias's relentless discipline, his quiet habit of waking before the sun, not just for a walk, but to dedicate those first, pristine hours to his studies. He would explain complex theories to her over breakfast, simplifying them with analogies from his garden. The interconnectedness of roots, the invisible network of fungi beneath the soil, mirroring the grander, unseen forces he now wrote about. Martha hadn't always understood the specifics of quantum entanglement or Sumerian cosmogony, but she had always understood his passion. It was a language of its own. The Oakhaven community, once defined by its sleepy charm, was now a vibrant example of what happens when curiosity is unleashed in later life. Retirement was no longer seen as a winding down, but a boundless opening, a second act teeming with intellectual adventure. Elias Thorne's legacy wasn't just a published paper or a burgeoning field of research. It was a living, breathing testament to the limitless capacity of the human spirit. His unfinished sentence, "I believe I am close to understanding the fundamental interconnectedness," no longer felt like an abrupt end. Instead, it had become a perpetual invitation, echoing through the halls of academia and the quiet lanes of Oakhaven. It was a reminder that the journey of understanding never truly concludes. Elias had merely passed the torch, and in doing so, he had ensured that the flame of curiosity would continue to burn brightly, illuminating new paths for generations to come. The tapestry of knowledge he had shown them was not fixed, but ever unfolding, woven anew with each question asked, each connection made, each mind dared to dream beyond the known. His life, in its quiet pursuit of boundless knowledge, had become the ultimate motivational story, proving that even in passing, a man can inspire a world to keep learning forever. Thanks for watching. Hit the bell icon for the daily updates. Please do like, subscribe, and share with your friends.